Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Mojo Mentor, Intentional Living Guide, and the publisher of Aspire Magazine, the premier inspirational magazine for women since 2006. I'm also the creatrix of Inspired Living University, a sacred curriculum and community for women on the path of self-discovery. You can learn more at inspiredlivinguniversity.com. You know, today we're going to be diving into a really important topic, and it's one that when I met Jovanka and heard about her book, I said, I have got to have a conversation with this woman. Then I watched her TED Talk, and then I got lost on her website. I was like, oh my. So we're going to be talking about a lot today about mind, body, spirit wellness, because many of the most popular approaches to mind, body, and spirit wellness are rooted in age-old practices from around the world and actually come from communities of color. But more often than not, they are primarily marketed to and used by the cultural elite. In this inspiring conversation about her book, Reclaiming Wellness, Ancient Wisdom for Your Healthy, Happy, and Beautiful Life, certified wellness expert, herbalist, and author Jovanka Ciares reclaims these time and science-proven modalities and makes them easy to implement for everyone, regardless of age, gender, ethnicity, income, or social status. Jovanka is a certified wellness expert, integrative herbalist, nutrition educator, and coach, and offers lectures and hosts workshops in both Spanish and English. She studied nutrition with best-selling author Colin Campbell, PhD, at his Center for Nutrition Studies, which was in partnership with Cornell University, and studied herbalism and plant medicine with Tieraona Low Dog, MD. Jovanka is a native of Puerto Rico and lives in Los Angeles, and I am so excited to have you here, Jovanka.
I am so happy to be here too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. One of the things that I've always done over the last 6 years with my guests is I've discovered this beautiful thread that it's usually a personal moment in someone's life that leads them to the transformational work they're doing in the world today. Mm-hmm. So, Jovanka, was there a pivotal moment that set you on this path to the work you are doing?
Yes, absolutely. I think that happens to a lot of us, right? And in my case, I like to call that a smackdown, a little bit of that wellness smackdown, if you will, in the form of a disease, right? Like a health condition, which for me, I was very blessed that that condition was considered chronic and or acute. So it didn't, by the time I got diagnosed, it wasn't at the level that it was an acute disease, but it was chronic in nature. So by Western medicine standard, it was something that just needed to be managed, not necessarily cured. But it wasn't life-threatening, right? So there's always a silver lining with every life experience. And in my case, it was IBS, it was ulcers, it was endometriosis and fibroids.
Wow, that's a heck of a package to be delivered.
Mm-hmm.
And so on that journey, you made the decision that I don't want to just control it. I want to find a cure for it, find a way. Is that what set you on this path?
That's right. So, I moved from Puerto Rico to New York and explore the big city, right? And I was relatively young and had not a care in the world, including the care for my own body and my own wellness. And then when my body started to fall apart, I went to doctors. Western medicine can only take me so far because, as I said, my conditions were chronic in nature, but they could not be healed by Western medicine standards. I was still under 30 years old. I was like, this is not acceptable. I cannot take no for an answer. So I decided to look elsewhere. And the first person I talked to was my grandmother, who was a woman with a fourth grade education, but had so much wisdom in her. And one of the first things she said was like, what are you eating? What are you putting in your body? Remember, this amazing thing that we call a body it's like a Lamborghini, right? Like a 5-star hotel. What are you putting in that particular, Lamborghini that is causing that motor to, fall apart? And so, in all her wisdom, she pointed me to different directions. I started learning about Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, Western herbalism. I changed my diet entirely, and we could talk about that in more detail if you'd like. And what I learned and how my body reacted became a big passion. It started healing in a way that I didn't expect. I was hopeful, but I was new to it. And what I learned became such a passion that I realized this information should not be kept within me, right? Now I have this knowledge, I have this wisdom, and I want to share it with the world, especially the people that look and sound like me.
And I completely agree from my own life experience. I've had a couple cosmic 2x4s in my lifetime to bring me to my knees. And I look back at those times and see that it was preparing me for the work I do in the world now. And it sounds like that was your experience. There was blessings in the mess that you had to go through. And the beautiful part is you chose to be of service and take that wisdom and that knowledge to help others. So that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an easy decision, right? I was working in the corporate world. I was climbing the corporate ladder. By the time I left the corporate world, I was at a VP level, and people thought that was a bad decision. But I was like, I am not making a difference. Certainly not in the way I wanted to. And so it was an easy decision to go out there and just educate. And it is such a joy to see the little sparkles in people's eyes when you realize, oh, I can reduce my pain. I can be a little bit more comfortable in my own skin. I can have a body that carries me through my 50s and 60s and 80s, with vitality and strength and energy.
And that is so powerful. Now, how long ago, give us a container, how long ago was the health issues, and then when you left corporate America and started this path?
So the health issues started roughly around 15 years ago, and I, worked on myself and changed my diet and learned a lot. For the first 4 or 5 years, that's when I decided to leave my corporate job. So I've been working as a coach and an educator for just 10 years. Actually, this year is my 10th year anniversary. And I haven't looked back. I just, love this work. And I've been a student and an educator ever since. So this is not like, if we talk about something like Ayurveda, for example, is a practice and a science that you could study for decades and still be considered a novice.
Well, and what's amazing to me is you said, I've just been doing it 10 years, but in 10 years, my friend, you have been traveled to 30 countries and counting, exploring how people from non-Western cultures keep themselves vibrant, youthful, and whole. You've been featured as a featured expert in People Magazine, Entertainment Tonight, NPR, CBS, Telemundo, the list goes on.
Yeah.
So your commitment and your passion for the work you do in the world has really been resonating with a global audience. Sometimes do you pinch yourself?
When you just mentioned them right now, it's like, really? Oh, wow. When you're in the middle of it, you're just like excited and you're just doing work, right? You're going in the world and doing your life's work. You don't really think about it too much. Sometimes it's surreal when you look at it as a whole in front of you, but it's been really exciting, really, really rewarding too.
Well, especially the part, about traveling to 30 countries plus to, learn more about how non-Western cultures stay healthy. What are some of the top gifts or insights that you learned from that journey?
Yeah. One of the things that were really surprising to me when I traveled to Northern Africa, especially Egypt specifically, the Egyptians are very proud of their heritage, right, as Egyptians and that ancient culture. And at first I was like, well, it's probably because I'm in Egypt and it's full of Egyptians. And of course they're proud of their culture. But once you immerse yourself and start learning about these ancient cultures and their practices, you realize how little we actually know about the impact that their culture has in our way of living. With respect to wellness, I mean, certainly we can take that and extrapolate it to almost every aspect of society. But with respect to wellness, what we know is more of a Eurocentric version of that history. But if you look deep, if you actually are curious enough, you realize that the Europeans actually learned it from other people in East Asia and Northern Africa, and then took it with them, and then kind of like expanded it all across the world. So that is one example of something that I learned that I was like, oh, this is important for all of us, regardless of our culture or where we come from, to understand that these practices are not just for certain groups, right? They are part of us because they came from us, but they also, we deserve to embrace them so that we can actually live the best possible life we can.
What a beautiful insight. We're going to take our first break, Jovanka. When we come back, I want to talk about your new book, Reclaiming Wellness. We'll be back in a moment, my friends. I invite you to visit Jovanka at jovankaciares.com. We'll be back in a moment.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America in your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is Jovanka Ciares, certified wellness expert and author of her new book, Reclaiming Wellness. So in your book, you offer numerous tips as a starting point to move more in our lives in simple ways. And I think with everything going on in the world, that's what people are yearning for, simple ways to make healthy changes in their lives. Could you give us a few examples that you share in the book?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, you're absolutely right, right? We are incredibly busy, expecting, say, a single mother of two that has, a full-time job and is trying to take care of her family, her parents, her community, to all of a sudden add an extra couple of hours to her day, or even several hours to her week to embrace wellness is it's a tall order, right? It's unfair, right? It's expecting too much of somebody that's already given a lot of herself. So the first thing I will tell people is to recognize that they are the vessel, right? Just like Maria Sabina said, you are the medicine. It is important that you take care of yourself. Once you have clarity about the fact that you have to give or take some of that energy that you give out back, then it's a little bit easier for you to have a little bit more clarity about how to find little pockets in your day or your week to embrace some of these practices. Preparation is key. I often ask people to spend 1 or 2 hours every weekend planning their week ahead from a wellness perspective. What do I need to buy and get home every day so that I know I have healthy snacks, so that I can prepare some meals if I have the time and the disposition to cook on weekends. When do I have 15 minutes of quiet and solitude in my day so I can maybe learn to practice some meditation or some contemplative practice, or anything that helps you reduce stress? What are the things that I truly need in my life to help me become well? And then figure out the pockets in the day or your week where you can actually fit those practices in, whether it is movement, a better diet, more use of botanicals and plants and supplements, etc., etc. To me, those two are the very first steps and the very easiest ways to ease your way into the practice of any of these wellness practices.
Well, I can see that. I can see how preparing like on a Saturday or Sunday and looking at everything. And for me, that's the only way it's going to work, because the weeks I don't do that, because I let time get away from me, I don't have everything for my green drinks. I forget to do this. And I don't have my walking schedule. We love to walk like right around sunrise. We live in the middle of the woods on the water. And we look at the weather report for the week and go, okay, we can get our morning walk in this day, but on these days we might have to do the afternoons. But if I don't look, just like you said, Jovanka, if I don't set aside the time, life gets in the way, right? Everything else other than myself becomes more important. Do you hear that from your clients?
All day long. I mean, and certainly I struggle with it as well, right? There's certain days that inevitably are going to be busier, or you didn't have a good night's sleep, or there's a million reasons why your routine gets a little sidetracked. This is part of the reason why just having clarity, but also giving yourself grace. If this global pandemic taught me something, was to do just that. Give yourself grace. You wanted to practice movement and work out 6 days a week, but this week you only accomplished that 4 days out of the week. That's okay. That is still good. That's definitely better than most of us who are just sitting in sofas all day long and not actually doing what we're supposed to be doing. So, practicing self-care and self-love is critical when it comes to learning about wellness.
Oh, you hit that nail on the head, because that was for me for many years. If I didn't do the plan the way my ego told me I had to do the plan, I would, backslide and not, maybe I missed a few days. Instead of being loving and gentle with myself, as you just shared, I'd go, you know what, might as well just give up. You can never stick to anything.
That's literally how I do it too.
Oh my God. And my honey would be, babe, you just had a busy day. You don't give up everything because of one day, but I had that mindset for decades. And now I guess I am embracing grace more, right? I'm gentler with myself. I'll be 60 this year. And the body, I'm just gentler and listening more to my body. So thank you for saying that, because I bet there are a lot of our listeners out there who it's all or nothing, and they judge themselves for that. and it doesn't have to be that way. So one of the things you talk about in the book is grounding. Let's talk about that because especially with the energies in the world right now, people are feeling off balance. Why do you feel it's important? And share some exercises that our listeners can bring into their lives.
Mm-hmm. Grounding is critical. First of all, to define grounding in simple terms, it's just literally the act of either doing activities or taking foods or supplements that will help you quite literally ground, right? Like get closer to the ground, to what we know as Mother Earth. The reality of the matter is that we are animals, we are creatures that are connected to the planet, right? We cannot deny that. And in the last maybe 110 years or so, we have slowly but steadily moved away from that. We no longer commune with nature. People that live in cities sometimes don't leave big buildings for hours, if not days and weeks at a time. We don't walk bare feet. We don't engage with nature in any way, shape, or form. We eat foods that are heavily processed, heavily cooked. It causes a lack of connection to the earth around us and to the world as a whole, right? We are connected to one another, whether we like it or not, whether we decide that we don't like other humans or not. We definitely depend on each other. The perfect example of that is the plate in front of you. Say you're eating a bowl of fruit and it has 3 or 4 different kinds of fruit. Chances are they are coming from 4 different corners of the world. So the people that grew that particular plant that turned into a fruit, that packaged them, that harvested and packaged them and distributed them and transferred them to your supermarket, the people in the supermarket that were in charge of selling it to you, all of these people are interconnected. If one of those cogs are out of shape or out of place, then the entire machine stops working, right? We depend on one another. And so when it comes to grounding, I do it twofold. With foods, right? Things you hear all the time, wellness experts talk about, I just want something that helps me ground. Like when you're actually not feeling, say you're struggling with an illness and you're just feeling a little bit out of sorts, I will recommend people to have root vegetables, like maybe mashed potatoes. There's nothing more grounding in the world than mashed potatoes, right? Like you just feel it's like a mother's hug. And there's a reason for that. That particular tuber grows under the ground and it has different nutrients. It actually, when we prepare it, more times than not, we're just infusing that food with the energy of almost like a prayer, like a wish. I want this to help me feel better, right? To help me feel comforted and grounded so that I can rest and I can heal and restore balance. And then you can also do that by literally connecting back to nature. One of the things that I mentioned in the book is for people that live in cities, especially, that may not have the ability to go to the beach every week or to go to a forest. You can go to a public park at lunchtime, take your shoes off and walk around in the grass for just 10 or 15 minutes a day. Yeah, people will look at you and think that you're a little crazy and maybe a little, flower child like, but so what? We now know, based on the studies that we do in the Western world, that these activities actually help us reduce inflammation and many, many other benefits to our health.
I have to ground. It's just who I am, and nature is my way. So, like I said earlier, we live right on the water, and every day around 4 o'clock, me and my honey meet. And, at the end of our days, we sit in our Adirondack chairs and just take in the water, take in the view, take in the energy of nature. And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful way to close out our day energetically. And it wasn't always that way. I used to be, many years ago, 100 miles an hour, 14-hour days. I was so in the masculine because I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years now. So way back then. And now it's like without that grounding every day. And then I take it throughout the day as needed, right? Whether it's 5 minutes just to tap into my breath or listen to a real brief meditation. I believe grounding is such a critical part of staying present in our own lives and listening to the wisdom of our body.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's such it was such a big change for me to get that. So, Jovanka, we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to dive in and talk about the history of wellness practices that you may have been surprised by when you did the research for your book. So we'll be back in a moment, my friends. I'm with Jovanka Ciares of jovankaciares.com. I invite you to visit her website for her offerings, learn more about the work she's doing in the world, and to be supported by her amazing wisdom. We'll be back in a moment, my friends.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
It's time to begin the adventure of a lifetime by nurturing the most important relationship you will ever have, the relationship with yourself. Kelly Grimes, self-nurturing expert, speaker, and author of the bestseller, The Art of Self-Nurturing, a field guide to living with more peace, joy, and meaning, shares that a self-nurturing practice is not about being perfect or completing another thing on your to-do list, but rather nurturing a relationship with yourself. In The Art of Self-Nurturing, you'll discover the inspiration, examples, reflective questions, and self-nurturing practices that will empower you to become the artist of your own life and see self-nurturing as an art form. Rather than living from obligation and overwhelm, you will learn to cultivate a life filled with self-compassion and self-love. Order your copy today at artofselfnurturingbook.com and receive the Self-Nurturing Starter Kit as a supportive gift.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Hailing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Hailing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Me, a cat moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Thanks for being here today with myself and my guest, Jovanka Ciares. We're talking about reclaiming wellness in your life and her new book by the same name. So when you were doing all your research for the book and diving into the history of various wellness practices, did you get any surprises? Unexpected surprises?
I got a lot of really fun surprises. Some of them I sort of had a sense that something was not there that I didn't know about. But a lot of them were like really fun to research and learn about.
And what were some of those things that surprised you?
Yeah. So, the one, first of all, if you look at things that are very obvious, right? Like yoga, everybody knows yoga and everybody knows that it comes from India. But believe it or not, I actually thought that this was something that everybody knew. And then when I started to share the book before it was published with people, they were like, oh, I didn't know that yoga came from India. And it's like, okay, so, there's still a lot of people out there that don't know. But some of the ones that were really unique were the use of essential oils. These essential oils that are mostly sold now for like really outrageous amounts of money. If you think about it, these tiny little bottles are like sold for anywhere between, 10 and 40, $50 for less than an ounce of fluid. You thought, I personally thought that this was something that just was a new creation of the 20th century, if you will. And then I started to learn about the ancient Egyptians using oils and how they were obsessed with cleanliness and oil and water and heat, and using all of those to connect spiritually, but also to heal the body. Another one that was really exciting for me was hypnosis, which has a really bad rep in this world today, probably because Hollywood has used it to their own advantage, and we don't have clarity about where it comes from and what it actually does. And I personally used hypnosis for my own healing, and I mentioned some of the stories in the book. But I also learned that the Druids in ancient Europe and the ancient Egyptians simultaneously, roughly around the same time in history, were using practices that help them kind of connect to that subconscious part of you, and had clarity about the difference between conscious mind and subconscious mind, and how you can change your habits and behaviors for your own benefit. That floored me, and I was so excited to learn about them.
Wow, those are so insightful. I didn't know about the essential oils. Yoga, I did know. Essential oils, I didn't know how far back they went. Like, we all know that frankincense and myrrh and certain things I knew were way back then, but I didn't think of them as oils. So that's really eye-opening. And then hypnosis, I'm like you. I am a big hypnosis advocate, subliminal messaging and binaural beats and all of that. I've used it for years to change various areas of my life. But I didn't, again, know how the history that what we see now really had its basis from way back when.
Mm-hmm. Truly fascinating.
So, yeah, I love all that stuff. So we're going to dive a little deep now, because you say in the book that yoga instructors of color are embracing the concept of decolonizing the mind. Let's talk about that. Tell us more what that means to you.
Yeah. When I was talking to the experts that I interviewed for the book and for the research, that phrase, that concept of decolonizing the mind kept coming up. So eventually I sat with one of them and I said, tell me what it means to you. And after discussing it with her, we were both in agreement that is this concept of consciously moving away from a mentality or the way of practicing any of these wellness practices, not just yoga, in a way that works for you and for your people and for your lifestyle and your goals, right? We have, because these practices sort of have been colonized and taken by the Western cultures, we go out there thinking that we need to embrace them from that mentality, when in fact they came from way before then. What if we remove that colonizers, lens, and start to see those practices in our own way? Like, one of the examples that we talked about in the book is this idea of perfection, right? Like, we need to go in there once we have achieved, or when we're ready to achieve perfection. I won't go to that yoga class because it's full of super flexible, skinny people that are doing perfect poses, and I'm gonna look like a fool. And how about we just walk away from that for 2 seconds and realize we don't know what is going on with those skinny, flexible people, right? For all we know, they're also struggling with their own sense of perfection. And instead, I am going to either find the space or create the space for people that, like me, that might feel like they're out of place in those spaces, and find a way to learn something new and allow these practices to become part of me. And while I do that, I learn to believe in myself. I learn to believe in the fact that these practices can actually help me attain a state of wellness. And then I'll figure it out from there, right? But the first thing we need to do is to work on our minds to remove that lens of colonialism that tells us this needs to be done a certain way because it's been that way for the last, 40 or 50 years.
What a powerful lens to for us to look at it from. I've always been one of those. I've never done yoga because I would walk in a class and go, I cannot do that. And I had those same exact thoughts, right? Of, oh my God, I can't do those moves. I will feel out of place. So you've opened my eyes for what you said of, hey, maybe they're struggling with their perfectionism too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that was a really powerful statement for me because two of my dearest friends teach yoga and I'm always like, no, for 20 years. No, thank you. Because of my own stories. So thank you for that insight too. So in the book, you also share that the modern wellness industry has a diversity and inclusion problem. I think we've all noticed that. If our eyes are open, we notice it. So as you did the research for the book, was that a big topic in the people that you were talking with?
That was a critical part of the book. At the end of the day, the second goal of this book is to help bring inclusivity and inclusion. Just help people, not only those people that are the ones that are keeping the practices, right? Like the people that are currently enjoying the practices, but also the people that are not, that should actually embrace them, come together, right? And how can we have a space that is comfortable for everyone to come in and help us attain a better version of wellness for all involved? I think the industry is changing. It's just that, in my estimation, it's not changing fast enough. There's a lot that we can do to be inclusive, to attract other demographics that could benefit from these practices. And at the end of the day, I believe that it could be a combination of including more practitioners of color to offer resources, get some of these brands, some of them who are billion-dollar brands at this point, to attract and be happy and, kind of include some of these practitioners of color to offer resources that help these communities come through and come in. At the end of the day, it will benefit the brands. This is a new demographic, a new market for you to market and sell your products to.
Oh, it's so important. And what did you, as you were doing this research and having all these conversations, did any of the organizations or groups that you had these intimate conversations with say, yes, I'm going to pick up the ball here and I'm going to make some changes? Or do you just see that the conversation at least opened their eyes?
I think a change takes time, especially when we've had, cultures that, and when I say cultures, I mean from a corporate point of view, right? Like corporate cultures that are saying, well, this is good. We're always walking a really fine line to our bottom line to make sure that we are profitable and continue to stay profitable for the benefit of the company and our employees and our shareholders. So everybody is, especially when I was writing the book, which was smack in the middle of 2020, in the middle of all the things that happened with the pandemic and the murder of George Floyd and the racial reckoning that the country and almost the world had. And I think we're still, just like from a societal point of view, we're still like trying to figure out what that looks like. I think companies and service-based industries are also in that stage of like, we understand that there is an issue of diversity, that we want to diversify, we want to have more inclusion in our practices and be more just or more fair in our services and what we offer, and how that will look like and how that will match with, at the end of the day, their mission and vision.
We're going to hold that vision. I'm going to hold this vision with you also, my friend. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, I'd like to talk and ask you, like, some of the most important things that you hope readers will take away from your book and your work. And we're going to be back in a moment. I'm with Jovanka Ciares of JovankaCiares.com. Swing by her website, learn about her sacred offerings, and, of course, grab a copy of her new book, Reclaiming Wellness, Ancient Wisdom for Your Healthy, Happy, and Beautiful Life. We'll be right back, my friends.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you feeling the call to unleash your feminine wisdom, hone your empathic gifts, and rise as the goddess you are? You're not alone, my beautiful friend. Crystal Cockerham, spiritual mentor and certified red tent facilitator, trained in both shamanic and priestess practices, works with awakened, empathic women around the world to unlock their shackles of pain, shame, and self-condemnation so they can reclaim their sovereignty and liberate themselves from the world's perceptions. As the founder of Wisdom Awakens and an international best-selling author, Crystal uses her own intuitive blend of spiritual midwifery and energy healing to support women on their journey of transformation. You'll find supportive guidance and community in Crystal's programs, retreats, and sacred offerings. If you're feeling the call to embrace your feminine power, learn more about Crystal's supportive services at crystalcockerham.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. I'm your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is the amazing certified wellness expert, integrative herbalist, and the list goes on, Jovanka Ciares. So, Jovanka, as you were writing the book and bringing together, all this wisdom and knowledge from yourself, as well as, everything you learned on your travels, what are some of the key elements that you really want readers to walk away with?
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that I would like readers to remember is that these practices were developed and passed on from generation to generation by people that all over the world, right? By our ancestors, regardless of where you're from or what you look like. Chances are your ancestors embraced some of these practices. And so because they're part of your ancestry, they're also your birthright. And they're an awesome way for you to honor your ancestors and at the same time reclaim the wellness state that you deserve. And then secondly, just remember that while it all looks really fancy from afar, they're very easy to implement, to practice, to utilize. They don't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be hard. They're definitely not inaccessible. It just requires a little bit of preparation, some basic knowledge, which the book will provide. The plan is also there. So all you have to do is maybe even rip the pages and put them on your refrigerator door and just have a little bit of that commitment to your own well-being.
Ah, yes, a commitment to your own well-being, because I think, especially when my audience is all women, and so many women, Jovanka, they're putting everyone else first and putting themselves at the end of their list, and they're becoming emotionally, spiritually, and physically exhausted. Have you seen that in your work with clients also, especially related to women?
Oh, yes, all the time. I mean, we are givers, right? We are mothers. Even those who have never mothered humans, we are very much givers of life, right? We are nurturers by nature. We are caretakers. And the truth of the matter is that we can do a lot. We can. We just can't do it all. And so once again, that sense of perfection, we know, everybody knows that perfection is an unattainable goal. So instead, let's just strive for excellence. You can still be excellent with a lot of imperfections. So again, give yourself a little grace, look at yourself in the mirror and say, you are doing enough. You are doing enough. And secondly, let's find those little pockets of spaces and time and resources that will allow you to take some of that energy that you're giving out into the world back, because it is yours and it needs to be replenished, and it can only be replenished from within.
What a powerful and beautiful message. And, I want to invite everyone, and let's talk about some of the offerings on your site, because you do wellness and nutrition coaching, herbalism, consulting. Why don't you share a little bit about how they can work with you, what you have coming up?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my service-based business includes coaching, which is normally like a 90-day, anywhere between 8 weeks and 90 days, depending on the need for the client. And then I do individual sessions, which are really fun. They're like really well-rounded. We include Ayurvedic consultation. People will find out what their dosha is, how that relates to their particular reality. We put together this wonderful herbal protocol for them with doses and frequencies, and everybody knows exactly what to take and when and how. And I love them. People love them a lot. Often people come to me once or twice and then they just go off because they're feeling so much better. So I'm really proud of those practices. Certainly the book is coming out, or by the time we're in this recording comes out, it should be out for sale. And it will be available everywhere books are sold. So I'm really, really excited about the book. I think it'll be an incredible, hopefully it'll become the start of a movement that doesn't end with me, right? That people can go out in the world and find ways to utilize these practices and share them with other people.
And I want to share too that some of your products and books are also available in Spanish.
Oh, yes. Well, my first language is Spanish, and I do a lot of my lectures both in Spanish and English, depending on the audience. It's really a lot of fun. It's actually an easier way for me to communicate, believe it or not. Sometimes I hear myself in English and I go like, I can actually talk in that language and I even understand myself.
Yeah, you're doing beautiful. You have other books also available. One is called Cleanse, the 3-week Ultimate Detox Challenge. And the other one is fun. It's Cook, Easy Recipes for the Busy Wellness Warrior. And I'm like, I'm sure so many women can relate to that. So tell us a little bit about those books in the few minutes that we have left.
Yeah, so those books are really fun. Right now, they're only available on ebook, and you can get them as a bundle. And so the recipes are plant-based because they're all meant to be anti-inflammatory, highly alkalizing, and very nourishing / cleansing. So the idea of the book called Cleanse is I am a firm believer in cleansing and detoxing. I believe that we have the ability to cleanse ourselves and detox. But I also believe that in this modern era, our detox organs are overworked and a little bit out of balance. So doing a small, very mild, 21-day food-based cleanse could actually go very far to help you reduce inflammation, restore balance, cleanse your organs, get your body back, lose weight if that's your goal, get your body back to what it's meant to be.
Well, I invite everyone to be sure to visit JovankaCiares.com. And so I want to bring up something because I saw it and watched it, your TEDx talk. Mm-hmm. Now, what led to that, you doing that talk, which is called Rethinking Failure?
Yeah, I was invited by Barnard College in New York City. They had an event with the TED Talks, but they had their own topic. The topic was just rethinking failure, and so every talk was about that particular topic. So in my talk, I described my healing journey and how I utilized anything and everything you can imagine, from Ayurvedic herbs to cleanses and meditation and all kinds of other wellness practices. Some of them who are actually well described in the book, to help me heal. And it was not only about healing my body, but healing my relationship. I've been married before, and that relationship actually ended. And how I was able to still have an important relationship with my ex-husband, and how your throughout your life, you go through what we like to call failures, and they're not necessarily failures. They're essentially lessons, stepping stones. It's almost like, I always use this analogy of the people that say all the time, "Oh, I'm fall off the bandwagon." So I was on a diet, or I was on a workout regime, and I fell off the bandwagon. And I say to them all the time, this bandwagon that we talk about is, we need to change that conversation. It's not necessarily a negative thing, right? It's not, you didn't fall off the bandwagon. You just simply had a flat tire, or you had to have an oil change. And guess what? You just did that. You fixed the tire and you got back on the road. And that road is called life. And that road will not end until the very last day of your life on this plane. So, if you need to fall off the bandwagon and emote and and heal and do your thing emotionally, and then once you're ready and you feel a little stronger, you fix what needs to be fixed, you get back on that bandwagon, and you go back on that beautiful road called life.
I love that. It's like, it isn't all or nothing, right?
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. And that's the important part. And that's what I really grabbed from this conversation today is, our wellness is a moment by moment decision, and we have to give ourselves grace on those times that we judge ourselves too harshly. And as you just so beautifully shared, get the oil change, get back on the road and the path to wellness.
Absolutely.
Well, I am so honored to have you here today. I'm excited to be sharing your wisdom in the upcoming issue of Aspire magazine as our cover feature. And that will be released, my friends. Watch for the June-July issue. Make sure you're a subscriber to Aspire at subscribetoaspire.com. And I want to give Jovanka's website again. That's JovankaCiares.com. Jovanka, thank you, my friend. Thank you for being such a light in the world. Thank you for opening our eyes to so many topics related to the wellness industry. And so we can all start to be part of the change.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome, my friend. Until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.